rules guiding recovery of premises. So when you talk about premises, premises simply just mean a property, either developed or undeveloped. That's premises, a property. It may be developed and it may also not be developed. In other words, it can include an empty land. It can also include, let's say, a shelter or a fully developed property. It can also mean a business site. Maybe I have a quarry, where you get all these, your chippings and all that. That's a premises for that very purposes. If you have a petrol station, that's also what? Premises. So as we go through, you now discover why the law categorizes the entire thing as what? Premises. And now, why recovered premises? Why do we have rules regulating recovery of premises? There are three basic things that have given rise to have regulations for recovery of premises. The first one is to prevent arbitrariness on the side of the landlord. To prevent arbitrariness on the side of the landlord. Maybe a landlord, let's say you're in the night, you're tired, you want to sleep, and he's knocking. And when I say I want to see whether that wire is still there, it doesn't make sense, and some people by their nature can do that. So that's why the law will say, no, because of that, once you give me a house as your tenant, I'm entitled to what? Quiet possession. So quiet possession means you're the owner of the house, but you can't interfere. You can't disturb me. Right. Secondly, is to guide against arbitrary increase in rent. To guide against arbitrary increase in rent. They will tell you cement has gone up. Rod has gone up, as if he's going to put down the house and start all over again. And meanwhile, this man who is increasing rent now and then, your roof is leaking. He doesn't even care. Maybe you have a door that is even begging for replacement. He doesn't care. So the law is out to prevent such high-handedness. And then thirdly, the law is also out to ensure that the tenant plays by the rule and does not unnecessarily hold over. That the tenant plays by the rule and does not unnecessarily hold over possession. There are tenants that are stronger than their landlord. They even report the landlord to the police. Any little thing, they will arrest the landlord. One landlord, after he narrated the story, I said, I can just go and live in a petrol police station. All right, so these are some of the reasons. So the next thing we'll look at the courts that are competent to entertain recovery matters. The courts are competent, the courts that have jurisdiction to entertain recovery matters. Basically, when this law came on board, it was enacted under the military regime. And that is why it was called Recovery of Premises Edict or Recovery of Premises Decree. But as time went on, states will now re-encapsulate those laws, possibly with some certain amendments, and then make them to become Recovery of Premises law of their very state. Under the Recovery of Premises Edict, the competent courts with jurisdiction were called the tribunals. They were called the rent tribunals. Rent tribunals. So, but you discover right now there are no longer rent tribunals, but these tribunals have been taken over by the magistrate courts and area courts. And then also there is nothing that has taken away the jurisdiction of the High Court from entertaining recovery of premises matters, especially this in view of the amount involved. In view of the amount involved. If, for instance, the amount arrears of rent so accumulated is well above the jurisdiction of the magistrate court, you definitely do what? You go to the High Court to enforce it. And this happens when you have tenants who are habitual debtors, who do not even bother to pay you rent. So when the accumulation has become so high that is above the jurisdiction of the magistrate court, then the landlord will be obligated to go here to the High Court. Then the next thing we look at is the procedure for recovery of premises. He has discussed types of tenancies. I don't want to go into them. I will only talk about one, tenant at will. I will discuss about tenant at will, and then we'll just move ahead. Now, in recovery of premises, the law provides that notices must be first issued and served on the tenant. You must first issue and serve notice on the tenant. And at the expiration of that notice that you have served, we are going to look at those types of notices. At the expiration of the notice that you have served, you will be obligated to serve what is called notice of owner's intention to apply to recover vacant possession of premises. Notice of owner's intention to apply to recover vacant possession of premises. And there are 7 days. So that's the one they call 7 days. So that's why I asked him what the real name for that very quick notice. And if after these 7 days notice, the tenant remains recalcitrant and refuses to vacate, then the landlord would issue summons or otherwise called plaint. What is called plaint? He will issue plaint against the defendant, against the tenant. In other words, he will do what? He will sue for the recovery of his premises. He will sue for recovery of his premises. Before looking at types of notices, I want to discuss one type of tenancy known to law. Tenant at will. Tenant at will. A tenant at will simply means a tenant that has been let into possession of a premises without a definite term. Without a definite term. But basically on the agreement between him and the landlord. Between him and the landlord. Is a tenant at will. Now, a tenant at will can be created contractually. It can be created by contract. You know, like your student, you have a good accommodation in your lodge. Somebody comes in, the person is still struggling to get accommodation. It's okay, oh, no problem, come and stay with me. You understand? You have not said any other thing, and he settles down with you without even making any attempt to look for accommodation. Maybe the money the parents gave him, put it in the pocket and buy beer. So that person is tenant at will, and you have not given him any particular period that he will stay with you and go. But there may also be instances where you say, okay, but you just stay here 1 month and move. All right. If he stays 1 month and moves, you see what? Tenant at will. Rent is not an incident of this type of tenancy. Payment of rent is not an incident. But nothing stops the person who is bringing him in, that's the landlord for that purpose now. Nothing stops him from saying, pay for use and occupation. There are two different things. Payment for use and occupation is not the same thing as rent. Who will tell me the difference? Rent and payment for use and occupation. What is the difference between the two?
Rent is a fixed amount.
Fixed. Anytime it becomes due, you must do what? You must pay. What of use and occupation?
It depends on how long.
It may just be once. You just stay, you're staying for 3 months, but you're giving me 2 naira to help in paying for so that's use and occupation. So a tenancy at will can come by that nature. Right. And then also again, a tenancy at will can be created by a function of time. That is when it looks like tenant at sufferance. It can be created by a function of time. You know, what is a function of time? A tenant is staying in a property, he's paying as a tenant, and then he's issued with quit notice. You know, the effect of quit notice is that it does what? It brings the tenancy to an end. Once a quit notice is issued, you are no longer what? A tenant. So if you continue staying, you will now be liable to pay what? Mean profit. Right. If, for instance, is a tenancy created for 2 years. After 2 years, that is gone. I can't serve you any quit notice. I will only regard you as what? A tenant at will. You came in legally and you are overstaying illegally. So it is akin to a tenant as sufferance. The only notice the law said I should serve you is what? Notice of intention to apply to recover vacant possession of premises. That is what? 7 days notice. That's all I can serve you. All right. Now we look at types of notices. Notices are classified depending on the nature of the tenancy. Notices are classified depending on the nature of the tenancy. For instance, we have monthly tenancy, quarterly tenancy, half-yearly tenancy, and yearly tenancy. Now, these are categories of tenancies, and they exist depending on their nature, the modus operandi of occupation. And then when you want to evict a monthly tenant, you're obligated to first serve him with what? 1 month. Somebody say something now. You have a monthly tenant and you want to evict him. What kind of quick notice will you serve? You will serve him 1 calendar month notice. Now, what is the difference between 1 month and 1 calendar month notice? What's the difference? Somebody tell me, what is 1 month? What is 1 calendar month? 1 calendar month means day 1 of every month to the end of the month. 1 month can simply, I'm giving you 1 month, and the person you're giving 1 month, you're telling him that thing on the 10th of July. So the person begins to count from 11th to the 10th of August, and that is 1 month. Do you see the difference? Yes. Then what the law is saying here is that there can't be anything calculated in between. It must be from the first day of the month to the... So if, for instance, I want to quit a monthly tenant now, and today is what, 9th, and I do the quit notice today and file it tomorrow, when does it start counting? August. That's what we are talking about. Because it has to be what? 1 calendar month. So that's it. So don't make that mistake of serving in between. Right. Now, but for the 7 days, after it has expired, they now count your 7 days from the date of filing. It can be from any day. But it starts from the date of service. You file today, serve him today, start counting that day. You serve him tomorrow, start counting tomorrow for the 7 days quit notice. And then what about half yearly? What about half yearly? Half yearly. Who can help us? Half yearly. Your mom on it now. Stop.
6 months. 6 calendar months.
6 months from when? 6 calendar months. I agree. Now, how do you calculate 6 calendar months? Stand up and talk. We are not in area. How do you calculate?
From the first day of the month you serve.
Of which month?
The first month of the year.
Is it that where the technicality comes in now? Right. The law says that your 6 calendar month must be from the anniversary of that tenancy. It must be from the anniversary of that tenancy. Let's say somebody must not come into your house in January. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
It could be the house was empty in March. The person moves in March and it's 1 year. And then you now begin to count from March to December is 9 months, which means his rent will now expire on the when again? March. Right. So because you're counting from April to March. Now, if you're counting from April to March, what is the anniversary of the tenancy? Which month is the anniversary? Next year, March. So, if for instance, maybe he has paid, but that you don't like him, he's a nuisance, we are going to look at reasons for eviction. Then you have to wait for the what? Anniversary of the creation of the tenancy. That is why most of the time the estate will manage. If you come in like in March, we'll make you pay to you end of December. Do you understand? So that subsequently you're paying us January to December, so that there won't be any confusion in calculation of time. So if you're paying me from January to December, so if I serve you quit notice in June or in July, it terminates in when? December, so that you are off when? January. Are you following it? Yes. So that's a calculation. The same thing happens in quarterly, half yearly. And then what are the reasons for ejecting a tenant? One of the reasons is, 1, arrears of rent. Arrears of rent. The law says if a tenant is paying you 2 months arrears of rent, it becomes a bad tenant. Maybe the law didn't look at the economy. If he start paying you for once it's 2 years, 2 months, for a monthly tenant, then the tenant is what? A bad tenant. That means, being bad simply means you can do what? Serve your quit notice on the 3rd month, so that you commence your eviction procedure. The second reason is personal use. Personal use. If you have a property and somebody is occupying it, a tenant is occupying it, and you have need to recover possession, the law said you can anchor your reason on what? Personal use. And then again, another reason is nuisance. Nuisance. Where a tenant, maybe he comes home, let's say he's the only person living in your premises because you want somebody to be in your guest house to make it hot. And by 11 p.m., he's coming there to knock for the landlord to come and open gate. So he's a nuisance. Or maybe he brings in people into your premises, unknown faces. So you can regulate, and that's why it's necessary to have what? Tenancy agreements. Yes, I'm going to talk about that as a reason, one of the reasons for trying to eject a tenant. Because tenancy is what? Is a contract. So you do well to do what? Reduce it into writing. In your tenancy agreement, you can say, do not sublet without my consent. And if you sublet without your consent, that is what? Fundamental breach of contract. You can sue and recover possession of your premises. Or you can say, do not bring more than 2 persons into the apartment at the same time. And then the next day you see the place is filled up, and you tell me that my committee of friends, and maybe keep doing it. And some landlords will also say, do not convert your tenancy, your tenement to a worship center. There's nothing wrong in worshiping your God, but obey contracts. You don't convert another man's house to a church. He doesn't want it. Right. It's only in this time that you will build a residential house, somebody will build church by your hand. Every day he mount a loudspeaker to your house. That's a nuisance. That's nuisance. Revisit your island and Fletcher. You know. So all these fundamental terms of the contract, a breach of them will result into eviction of the tenant. And nothing stops a tenant from doing what? Counterclaiming. If you take a tenant to court to recover arrears of rent, and the tenant believes that you are owing him, the tenant can do what? Can counterclaim. Maybe those landlords that every day they come and knock on the door of the tenant, please give me 20,000. I need it. And you give, he will not record. You understand? And the only thing he knows is that your rent has expired. He says, oh, God, but I've given you 20,000 5 times. Calculate it now, how much is my salary, my rent? So that is what? That is counterclaim. But you do not counterclaim based on what you are not authorized to do. For instance, you have planted flower in the man's premises, beautiful flower. And the man wants to evict, he says, oh, that is my flower that can't be uprooted, it's 20 million naira. Who told you to plant? How can you plant a flower in a house that is not your own? You know. The law calls that you've done landlord now. Yes. What does landlord call it? One person at a time. What does landlord call it? Try now.
The principle of
what does landlord call it? Before I be back like that. Yeah. What does landlord call it? Doing some, maybe you come here now and you say, okay, you see, maybe this is ordinary ceiling. He said, no, by my standard, this place should be POP. You remove it, you put POP. Do you think you can recover? No. You cannot. No. But what does the law call it? That beautification of the house. What does
inconsistent with them?
No, it is called waste. That is how bad it is in the eyes of the law. Waste. W-A-S-T-E. You are wasting the man from. No, you have been defining it, but the law calls it what? Waste. Because you did not obtain what? Consent. So don't allow maybe a tenant to come to your house and do that, and don't do it to another person. If you must have that your text translated, do what? Obtain the consent. And as a lawyer now, by 2 more steps or so, lawyers in everything. What you say? Oh, that's right. So what you do is to do what? Make sure you communicate in writing. Hey, dear landlord, thank you for everything, and thank you for blah blah blah. My landlord, I want to beautify this place. I want to put blah 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 blah. I say, oh, come on, go ahead and do it. And at times, if he reply or he calls you on phone and to talk about it, hey, sir, I'm driving. Just send me a text. Just send me a text. You have committed him. That's right. Why? Because that is what? Documentary evidence. So he can't call it a waste anymore because he has done what? He has consented. And the next thing is the question of if I'm leaving, will I pull it? If you pull it, it becomes waste. Do you understand? You can't even remove. What you do is that you agree with him. If I live here for 5 years and living, maybe you give me social amount, or we agree on how much you will refund me. Do you know that there are tenants that when they're going to put the wire, they will even remove sockets. It's actionable. It's very, very actionable. So it's something you don't want to do. Finally, I will look at their draft. Quit notice. In their quit notice, they say sample of quit notice, and they wrote Goodness and Mercy and Company, Beauty Chambers, number 23, Azikiwe Road, Fowl. The Quit notice must have heading. Now let's draft a quit notice. In the Magistrate Court of Abia State of Nigeria, in the Magistrate Court of Aba South Magisterial District, holding at Aba South, notice to quit number dash, because it's not you that will give the number. You are putting this in by the right hand side. Notice to quit number dash. There's no address. Nobody cares about your address there. Then you come to the left. There's nothing like reference number. You don't put reference number. You come to the left side. You address it to the tenant 2. Assuming the person's name is ABC. You write to ABC. Then write the number of the place. Number 10, Agricultural Road. Aba South AGA, by the left hand side. You are done with that. Then the title, notice to quit. Assuming you are the solicitor to the landlord, you can say notice to quit issued by the solicitor to the landlord. Notice to quit issued by the solicitor to the landlord. And then you now begin to, maybe we can adopt their body, the body of their work. I, Goodness in the Square, as solicitor to Chief Nnemeke Keleme, your landlord, and on his behalf, do hereby, is better in English, do hereby give you notice to quit and deliver up vacant possession of 2-bedroom flat with appurtenances situated and lying at the road address in Aba South local government area of Aba, which you hold of him as a monthly tenant. We are dealing with monthly tenants now. They say that you don't even write from the folder of this. No. It's a which you hold of him as a monthly tenant. Which tenancy, this is where they made mistake. Which tenancy, we also supply you with that. Which tenancy shall expire from 1 calendar month from the day this quit notice is served on you. From the day this quit notice is served on you. It doesn't mean you're going to make that mistake, but it starts counting because it's the 1 calendar month. You now put the date, dated, and then after that, see down by your left, you write your name as a lawyer and then your address. So those people who use letterhead to do quit notice, they are wrong. Quit notices are filed in court, not in chambers. It's after you have written down your name that you now put the address of your chambers under your name and you sign. All right, so far so good. We're done for today. So have a nice day.